He fashioned a crude weapon from a broken toothbrush, sharpened it day after day against the concrete floor of his cell. Then, when the lights dimmed and the guards turned their backs, he slipped a single cigarette through the bars, his last one. Peace offering. Or maybe a bribe. Whatever it was, it worked. By midnight, Marcus Rayfield was gone, vanished from a maximum security prison without a trace. No alarms. No chase. Just silence, and a growing storm on the horizon. But here's the thing, he wasn't running to freedom. He wasn't chasing hope. He was chasing revenge. The man didn't escape to start a new life. He escaped to end one. A woman's life. The same woman who used to send him Bible verses, whisper promises of forever through a prison phone, and wear his engagement ring like it meant something. What went so wrong? What truth did she bury beneath those soft words and Sunday smiles? What secret did she keep that could drive a man to kill? Was it betrayal, or something deeper? And how far would you go, if the person you loved most became the reason you snapped? This is not just a story about a prison break. It's not just another headline buried in the back of a newspaper or a case file collecting dust in a cold courthouse basement. No, this is a story about obsession, about betrayal, about a man named Marcus Rayfield, and the twisted path he carved through love, rage, and blood. Marcus wasn't a stranger to the system. By 29, he was already 5 years into an 18-year sentence at the Hensley Correctional Facility in Georgia, locked up for armed robbery and aggravated assault. To some, he was just another convict with a violent past. To others, especially one woman, he was something more, a soul worth saving. But what happens when the person who believes in you the most turns out to be hiding the most? When you're locked in a cage, stripped of dignity, stripped of choice, the smallest betrayal can become a spark. And in Marcus's case, it ignited a firestorm. Inside those prison walls, Marcus fell in love. Her name was Tamara Green. She wasn't just a prison volunteer. She was a lifeline. She gave him something no court, no cell, no guard ever could. Hope, purpose, a reason to believe in life beyond bars. They exchanged letters, prayers, promises, and eventually a ring, sent through legal mail, concealed inside a devotional book. They planned a wedding. They spoke about starting a new life when he got out. But then, something changed. A rumor began to swirl. A photograph surfaced. A name came up, one that wasn't his. And just like that, Marcus's dream of redemption crumbled into something else. Something cold. Something vengeful. Because when he found out that Tamara, the woman who had once looked him in the eye and told him she loved him, might have been secretly involved with someone else. And not just anyone, but a prison guard? Something inside Marcus snapped. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He waited. And then he planned. 4 weeks he studied the guard's routines. Watched for weaknesses. Sharpened his tools. Built trust. Manipulated. Prepared. And when the moment was right, when the lights dimmed just enough, and the silence inside those steel corridors became deafening, he made his move. Marcus Rayfield escaped from a facility that was supposed to be impenetrable. But he wasn't fleeing toward freedom. No, he was headed straight for the woman he once called his future. To confront her. To hear the truth from her lips. Or, to silence her forever. By the end of this story, you'll find yourself asking hard questions. Where is the line between heartbreak and hatred? Between justice and vengeance? Was this the act of a calculating killer who deceived everyone all along? Or the final unraveling of a man who had nothing left to lose? This is the story of love turned lethal. Of promises broken. And of a night that would end in blood. Stay with us. It's only just beginning. Marcus Rayfield was born into a world that didn't offer many chances, and never promised second ones. He grew up in the South Side projects of Augusta, Georgia, a place where broken glass sparkled on sidewalks, sirens were lullabies, and dreams, if they existed at all, rarely made it past the corner store. His mother worked nights at a processing plant. His father? No one really knew. Some say he was shot during a dice game when Marcus was still in diapers. Others say he just walked away and never looked back. Either way, Marcus learned early that if he wanted to survive, he had to make his own rules. And so he did. By 13 he was skipping school. By 14 he was packing heat. And by 15, he was already moving firearms through alleyway connections and gang channels. He wasn't the biggest kid, but he was fast, smart, and most importantly, he was angry. The streets gave him something school never did. Respect. Fear. A name people whispered. And in his world that was power. But power never lasts in that life. At 22, After a failed liquor store robbery that left a cashier bleeding on the floor, Marcus was arrested during a high-speed chase. He was convicted of armed robbery and aggravated assault, and sentenced to 18 years in Georgia's Hensley Correctional Facility. Insert gritty black and white footage of prison fences, clanging doors, and inmate shadows. At first, Marcus resisted prison life with all the fury of a caged animal. He got into fights, spent weeks in solitary, tested the guards, challenged the system. But then, something shifted. Maybe it was the passing of time. Maybe it was the loss of his little brother, who died of an overdose in 2018. Or maybe, just maybe, it was her, Tamara Green. In 2020, Marcus enrolled in a prison rehabilitation program, one of the few lifelines available to long-term inmates. It wasn't because he wanted to change. It was because the program offered two things: air conditioning and freedom from the yard politics. He didn't expect to meet someone like her there. Tamara was a volunteer church counselor, a woman of God who believed in redemption more than punishment. She had spent the last decade working with broken men, but nothing prepared her for Marcus. She was soft-spoken, with kind eyes and a voice that sounded like Sunday morning gospel. She didn't judge him, didn't flinch at his tattoos or criminal record. She listened, really listened. And for Marcus, that was more intoxicating than anything he'd ever smuggled in or shot into his veins. She was 14 years older, a single woman with no children, and a heart full of compassion she gave too easily. Some guards teased her. Some inmates mocked him. But for Marcus, Tamara wasn't just a woman. She was hope. Insert close-up footage of handwritten letters, Bible pages, and prison visitation glass. They started writing back and forth, letters laced with scripture, longing, and vulnerability. He called her Sunshine. She called him My Work in Progress. A fellow inmate later said, he used to write poems about her, read 'em out loud to anyone who'd listen. He said she was his angel, that she made the walls disappear. In a place built to break men down, Tamara made Marcus feel whole. And somewhere between the prison bars and the promises they whispered during phone calls, they fell in love. No one thought it would last. Not the guards. Not the chaplain. Not even Marcus at first. But Tamara believed in miracles. And when she said yes to his proposal, despite never having touched his face without a glass window between them, people stopped laughing. Marcus couldn't buy her a diamond ring, so he folded a strip of paper into the shape of one, and mailed it in the spine of a Bible verse. Later, he saved enough from commissary work to buy a modest silver band through a prison-approved vendor. Tamara wore it everywhere. To church. To family dinners. Even during prison ministry hours, when it glinted under the fluorescent lights as she held her Bible to her chest. She wore it proudly, even though he could never slide it onto her finger himself. It was unconventional. It was strange. To many, it was foolish. But to Marcus and Tamara, it was real. They dreamed about a life after prison. A small house in Savannah. A garden she could tend. And maybe one day a child, if not by blood then by foster care. It was a fantasy. But it kept Marcus grounded, focused, different. Even the guards noticed. He started attending Bible study regularly. He stopped picking fights. Started mentoring younger inmates. He even talked about enrolling in college courses. To everyone watching, prison had changed him.